Okay, we're starting the meeting. Good evening, everyone. Today's September 6, 2018, Select Board meeting. We're being televised live as well as taped for your viewing pleasure. If everyone can join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, before we get into the agenda, I just want to editorialize a little. We just had the election a couple days ago, 2 days ago. We got roughly a 46% turnout, as I understand it, which is about almost 1,800 voters, which I think is great. And it shows that people in town care, and they came out and they voted. So regardless of which way you voted, we want to thank you for coming in and being part of the process, because without that, we wouldn't have what we have today, a small town with a good government. The other thing, I wanted to introduce Matt Rowland. He was the winner of the election. Congratulations, welcome.
Thank you.
You want to say a word or two?
Sure. I mean, you stole some of my thunder, but we had a great turnout at the election. Thank you, everybody in the town of Southampton, for coming out and for voting me into office. I'm going to do the best I can to serve all of you, whether you voted for me or not. We're all in this together. And I think we have an engaged populace, and I'm looking forward to hearing what everybody has to say and how they want our government to proceed. Thanks.
Round of applause. Welcome. I want to also thank Charlie Knickie for the years he's put on the board and all his effort that he's put in, and I'm sure we won't see the last of him. He'll be on other committees. So if you're watching, Charlie, thank you from the board. We appreciate your work in the past. Jim LeBrie's not here. He asked us to let you know that he has a family medical emergency, so he wouldn't be here. So best wishes out to him. And from a personal point of view, this is the third year in a row that I'm here on my anniversary. So I'm looking out and saying hi to my wife, Claire, 32 years.
Happy anniversary.
She's had the easy part of that, so.
Hey, John, can I
Wait
just...
a minute, that's the other way around. Yeah, that's the other way around. I'm sorry.
Can we also just give a shout out to our town clerk for all the hard work that she and the group staff did? That was a long day on Tuesday, and we really appreciate everything that
Good point. Janine and all the poll workers, thank you very much.
Can we also send a note of thanks to Charlie Knickie for his time and service from the board?
Would you mind drafting that up, Ed? Okay, and we can sign it. Thank you. Appointments. Catherine Lorigan, COA reappointment term to expire June 30th, 2021. And we have Janet Kane, COA reappointment term to expire June 30th, 2021. I'm going to take those one at a time for voting reasons. So can we have a vote to accept Catherine for reappointment?
So moved.
Can we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. And can we have a motion for Janet Kane for reappointment?
So moved.
I'm going to second that. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 I'm abstaining.
Just
Okay.
want to say that I'm the liaison to the Council of Aging, and I just want to commend Janet as the chair and the entire board for doing a phenomenal job. You remember not too long ago,
Mhm.
there was a lot of difficulty, and it's a great board, and she's doing a great job.
I think that's been a great success story, turnaround story there. A lot of hard work. Okay, we don't have any hearings tonight. We have reports. So let's start with Francine. You have some information you want to go over?
Yeah. I attended the Hampshire Regional School Committee meeting and on August 27th. And I'm just going to highlight the highlights of that meeting. They announced that there will be a series of open houses for people who've never visited the school. It's October 1st, 3rd, and 4th, and you can get more information by going to the website. I plan on attending. the summary, we're getting ready, obviously, for the new school year. They have 14 new staff, 13 of which were replacements and 1 new. The staff included teachers, paras, and coaches, just so you know, evenly distributed. One of the things the principal reported that I wanted to make note of is the fact that they set up a water bottle refilling station in the school, and according to her records, and I don't know when it started, but they've saved over 55,200 plastic bottles.
Wow.
So if any of you are looking at the environment and what's on the website, what's out
That's
there
great.
about how much plastic we have that we can't, is like laying around in the ground, that's a wonderful thing. So I just wanted to make note of that. The new superintendent, Aaron Osborne, presented his report, and the significant part of that is his he's calling it an entry plan and timeline. So he put together an outline of what he intends to do to develop a 3-year strategic plan for the regional school district. It's not limited to the high school, it includes all of the elementary schools. So between now and next June or July, he will be meeting with constituents, whether they're school committee members, select board members, parent groups, students, faculty, to get an overall kind of feel for what's going on and what are the needs across all 5 or 6 school districts, if you include Worthington. So he seems to be a very thoughtful, analytical person. And this is the plan. I handed it out to the rest of the select board members. If anybody would like a copy of it, I'll give you mine and you can have copies of it, but there it is. The other thing is he gave a report on the expansion of charter schools. You know, it was voted down in the state, but individually, charter schools are coming forward and asking for expansion. And in our area, the Chinese immersion school requested an increase from 500 students to 950. So he wrote a letter in opposition to that, which he shared with us. It includes some, I think, important statistics for us to realize and to understand about the population in a charter school versus populations and issues in public schools. The other thing that amazed me is they have a 120-page family and student handbook. So they went through revisions
So the parents are
this
well aware.
year so that everybody understands, parents and students, what are the expectations. And they just approved them at that meeting, and so I'm assuming it will also be available online for people now the school has started. And in the capital plan that they talked very briefly, they may need an air exchanger, which was my understanding. I don't have any numbers on that, but as soon as we have that, I'll certainly come back. But that was it, and Tammy was there, Margaret will catch up. Anything I missed? Great. Okay. And then my next committee was the Finance Committee. It was just this evening. It was a short meeting. They approved the PCFs, which we will get to later in our agenda as well, the details, so no sense repeating it. And that's it for me.
I'm just going to make a comment. I'm working with Aaron on a subcommittee, an ad hoc committee. I got to say, I'm very impressed with his thoughtfulness and how he approaches things, and he's got a great financial background. So I think he's going to do great for the local as well as the Hampshire regional. So look forward to working with him more. Rena, can we get on to you?
Pardon?
Do you have anything?
Yes, the Council of Aging met yesterday, and the big news is the Go for Life Intergenerational Walk. That was a grant, so please plan to come to that. It's a mile walk, September 15th, which is a Saturday. Please register at the Senior Center, arrive at 9:30. The walk will be at 10 o'clock, and it will be a mile walk around Conant Park, basically, and back around East Street. There's donations from some local businesses, and also there's free raffle for a Fitbit. So Be great if people could show up for that, 10 o'clock on the 15th of September. And Community Preservation met yesterday also, and they're planning, actually Jenica Reynolds, who's the chair of the Housing Authority, is CPC authorized funds. You know, we don't have a lot of affordable housing in town, and so they're trying to find out from builders what the barriers are. So they're going to be reaching out to engineers, builders, planning board to have a get-together. The date hasn't been set yet, but they're looking to get some information, provide some information to see what could be done about increasing opportunities for affordable housing. There was also a review of the budget, and the public hearing that is held annually will probably happen to the end of this year or to the beginning of next year in terms of report out to the public on the community preservation. And then conservation, we have not met, and the open space hasn't either, but on Monday, 6:30 to 7, is a combined meeting of Conservation and Open Space Committee. Mark Walmsley from Kestrel is coming with the Development Director from Kestrel, Monica Green, and they're going to share with both committees and the public what's involved in setting up a fund at Kestrel for donations to conserving land, and that's Monday night, 6:30 to 7. So Janet, Margaret, who's helping out with the Go for Life, is there anything else that you want to mention or that I missed? Virginia?
It's just a great way to get the community together. So it's our first time, and hopefully it's a big success, and
Yeah.
all ages.
And this was a grant,
Yeah,
right?
registration starts at 9:30.
Registration's at 9:30, the walk starts at 10, and this was a grant from, was it Blue Cross, among others?
MCO,
MCO, right, Mass Council of Aging, yep.
Health, Blue Cross.
Blue
Yeah.
Cross, yeah.
So you
Right.
just have to show up 9:30 to register?
9:30 to register, it's free, and it's going to be a great community event. Hopefully the weather will be good.
We have some high schooler and middle schoolers volunteering.
Come up to the podium? Sorry.
Margaret Larson, 9 David. We have some high schoolers and Boy Scouts who are going to be helping us set the course, and Big Y just donated balloons to us, and
Bashist has donated apples, and the
Bashist has
police are going to
donated
help make
apples
sure
and-
everybody gets around
Right.
safely.
right, so I think, you know, I don't know how many people we're expecting exactly, 40, 50, but I think if we can get more than that and just start a tradition,
Sounds good.
hopefully.
I'm just going to mention this because you mentioned balloons, but there's a lot going around where, at least where I worked the last couple of years, about latex allergies, and we've discontinued balloons entirely. So I don't know if that's an issue or not, but I just wanted to bring it up.
I'll make sure that the kids who handle them are okay.
Yeah. Okay, sounds good. Anything else, Rainey?
No.
I think this, Matt, is your one free pass at this.
It
Next
is.
time, I'm sure you'll have a report. Was at the planning committee on, was it Tuesday night, last night? And they had a very good discussion on the amended bylaws for marijuana bylaws. And I believe they're going to vote to continue the, what word am I looking for?
Moratorium.
Moratorium till December of next year. They were talking about that. But the gentleman there, Larry, remember his last name? Yeah. Smith, yeah, consultant. He went over all the bylaws that he had helped other towns go through, and basically we're looking at the same ones. So we're going to post the amended bylaws up on the webpage. I'm going to ask Janine to do that so everybody can see them. But it was quite the robust discussion. I enjoyed that. There's also a group there looking at maybe putting a church on Route 10. So they're going through their permitting process and all that, so that was interesting. Yeah, it was an interesting meeting. And as Francine said, we were at the Finance Committee, and I have the PCFs for a little later on. Ed, do you want to go over yours?
Sure, thank you. See, first, as a step towards the town's MS4 stormwater permit requirements, the town has joined the Connecticut River Stormwater Committee. Membership is open to any community which is MS4 permit eligible. This committee has been operating since 2007 and consists of 19 communities and helps to recognize the opportunities to reduce the cost and/or increase the effectiveness of permit compliance efforts by implementing them on a cooperative regional basis. The annual membership cost for this is $2,000, and it's done through Pioneer Valley Planning Commission. KP Law has informed us that effective October 1st, 2018, that their rate will be increasing from $180 an hour to $185 an hour. And one side note, as a benefit to having a custodian here in Town Hall and for the police station and the library, again, just to let you know, in addition to cleaning Town Hall, having a custodian on staff has allowed us to replace almost all of the batteries in our emergency lights, replace several bathroom faucet or repair several bathroom faucets which need replacement of batteries which had stopped working. And we've replaced approximately 70 of the 4-foot fluorescent light tubes which had stopped working or had started to dim, along with the bulbs and several of the outside emergency lights, which had also had stopped functioning. The door latching mechanism on the main back door at Town Hall here has been repaired, so that's working functionally well again. Like to let you know that this week Randall Kemp, our highway superintendent, organized the Land Use Committee meeting, which hadn't met in a while. It was yesterday afternoon to discuss some stormwater drainage issues along with some other developmental issues in the town. Earlier today in the afternoon, a small town administrators meeting was hosted here in the town hall today. The turnout of town administrators and managers was outstanding, with about 40 individuals in attendance. Topic of the meeting was the new Department of Labor law for the OSHA standards, which will go into effect on February 1st, 2019. The discussion was very good and insightful. And a side note, which I hadn't typed up in my report, just to let you know that the bid for the irrigation system and field repairs for Labrie Field is out. There is a scheduled pre-bid walkthrough on September 18th at 10 a.m. Bids are due back here September 26th by 3 p.m. And the Parks Commission has scheduled a meeting that evening at 6:30 for us to open the bids. Upcoming, the next Board of Selectmen meeting is Tuesday, September 18th at 6 p.m. And the October Select Board meetings are to be determined.
Can I just make a comment? When we put our schedule together, if we are cognizant of religious holidays that may be occurring at that time? I know we're scheduled and we're set to go for the 18th, but I brought, we can talk about it later, but I just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention in case there are people who would like to come but won't come for religious purposes.
Okay. And another question, you were up talking about replacing the fluorescent light tubes. I'm looking up there, I think they're like those T8 tubes. Have we ever looked at LED, Randall, or anything like that, and the cost savings?
I don't believe so for Town Hall.
Yeah, we will be. We'll be in the second step of our DOE Green Communities
Okay.
grant.
So that's part of the process?
Yep.
Great, thanks.
Did the Select Board want to set the October meetings yet, or do you want to make it to the next meeting?
I'm okay with setting them. The rest of you okay with setting them?
Sure.
The every two would be 9 and 16, I mean, 2 and 16. Right?
So 2 and 16, is that what we're looking at?
Yeah, it'll be the first and third.
I've already got them in the schedule for that, so,
Okay.
and the 30th also.
30th?
Yeah, it's just following the 2-week schedule. All 3 dates good for all of you?
I can't make the 16th, I'm out of town, but
Okay.
I can make the other two.
Okay. Francine?
No, they're fine for me.
They're all fine for me.
Okay, sounds good. 2, 16, and 30. 6 o'clock here. My wife says thanks to everyone.
And that is all I have. Thank you.
You're welcome. Glendale Road, right of first refusal, assuming unless you tell me otherwise, it's just going through the process?
Yes, it will sit on here until December.
Right.
But right now,
But nothing has changed?
nothing
just
has
going through
changed.
the grant process?
Exactly.
Okay. Anybody want to say anything on that, Rini, or no?
No, we're just waiting on it to find out about the grant.
At some point, we need to talk about if we want to make a committee like that permanent, because we kind of threw it up. Do we want to wait until after we get the grant and put this project to, excuse me, to rest, or do we want to do it beforehand?
Well, I think right now we have just a half-hour meeting. The agenda for conservation is pretty steep Monday, so we just have a half an hour overlap. And then maybe the following time that open space meets, maybe we can put it on the agenda to discuss and then bring it to our recommendation.
Okay, so you want to put it on the agenda too
Yeah,
now?
maybe for a future open space review committee meeting.
Okay, sound good?
Yeah.
Marcy?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Can I just ask you something about the agenda? So I think the last meeting we talked about getting regular updates on the current money that's already been approved by community preservation and/or the state. And I see the generators on here, which is great, but that was the plan, was to put it on the agenda. I don't know if it was going to be part of the select board, town administrator report, or if it was going to be a separate thing, but what works best? Should we just put it up for next time? Do you have any updates other than the generator for town hall, which is a separate agenda item?
No, not at this time.
Okay, so can we put it on for next time? The community preservation projects that have already been approved and anything else that's already been approved?
Would that be best coming from the Community Preservation Commission, just as an update?
I think most things are just waiting for bidding, like the Conan Park roof and the Zip to Barn, and like most of the things have already been approved. It's just a matter of waiting for
So you
them
just
to
want
go
a
out to bid.
placeholder on here so we know?
Yeah, so we just get regular updates.
Okay.
And just to let you know, we know nothing about the Conan Park roof.
What do you mean?
Just what I said. We know nothing about the Conan Park
Sounds
roof.
like you said Conant Park roof. Is that what you're talking about?
I'm
Conant?
talking about both, the Conan Park roof and the Zipta roof.
Zipta roof, I know about. The Conan Park roof, not here.
Can
Thank you.
Virginia speak to that?
Sure, if she'd like
That's
to get up there.
probably something that in between town administrators then, is my guess.
More than that, I think.
Okay.
Virginia Ahart, 27 Fulmer Road, Chair of the Community Preservation Committee. The Conant Park Pavilion roof has been on for a long, long time, and it was approved some time ago. When it was first approved, the Lions Club was the one that brought it forward because they are the ones who provided the pavilion and had it built years ago. And then it sort of got taken away and taken to the town, and I think it's just languished. But it really needs to be done.
So it's already been approved by the voters
Yeah, it was
to use community preservation funds?
years ago.
Wow.
And it sat there. They had hoped, I think, to have it, I kind of lost exactly track of which year, but they wanted it fixed for the concert series at least for 2016. So that'll give you an idea.
So do you remember how much money is there allocated?
Yeah, 16.
16,000? So is that something that either Ed or Randall can go and get prices on? and
Well,
get it
they
done?
need prices on it.
My question would be, who did town meeting give that money to as far as
Yeah, good
authorization?
question, Right. Mark?
I think it's the park.
Parks, okay.
Yeah, the Park Commission now. Originally, it was given to the Lions, and then they got switched over to the park
Okay.
as time went on.
Yeah, we should do something. Is that
I will
something-
be happy to check with the park
Yeah,
commission.
thanks a lot,
Since
Ed.
I'm now working with them very closely on the Labrie
Labrie?
Field.
Yeah.
So if you can report back at the next meeting? Be great, thanks. Is there any, oh, I'm sorry, you sat down. Is there any other projects that were funded that are sitting out there with no activity?
There are small ones that weren't, like, I think there's some leftover here and there, like lighting for the flagpole and town hall and the town hall front doors. That was part of the thing from last time. But also there was the play structure, the new play structure. They want to make sure there's adequate lighting so there's not vandalism, so they want to have a brighter, yeah. Do you,
Yeah, real quick. I did get word that they're done with the playground at the Norris School. And that money today, I spoke with Vicki, and it's being turned back into open space recreation.
okay.
And there was one other one. Oh, yeah, that was the Historical Society,
Yeah,
and that money's going back into historical.
yeah.
But, yeah, we called in the ones that have been finished, and
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, new business, action, discussion. We're going to have some updates here. First is from Chief Workman on the fire department. Welcome, Chief.
Welcome. Matt, congratulations, welcome aboard.
Thanks so much.
Hopefully you have fun here.
Yeah. Sure I will.
That wasn't in the job description, huh?
I got a little report that I'll read, but certainly open to questions now and whenever. You guys hopefully all have my cell phone. As of today, we have done 469 runs. At the same time last year, we had 410, so we've got an increase of about 59 calls over last year, which is, well, good and bad.
Is that fiscal year date or calendar?
Calendar year.
Calendar, okay.
Sorry, fiscal year.
Fiscal, July 1?
Fiscal, yes,
Oh.
correct.
Since July 1.
No, I'm sorry, calendar year.
Yeah, okay.
Okay,
I apologize.
no problem.
Had to think about it and then confused myself. We have 40 active members, 18 of which are paramedics. For equipment, we have Engine 3, Engine 4, brush truck at Central Station and in service. Engine 1 is at the Pond Station and is also in service. A2 is currently our primary ambulance and will be our primary ambulance until the 17th of this month, when we put our new ambulance. We replaced the old A1 with our new ambulance. And so that'll be in line on the 17th.
Exciting.
Should have- Yeah, very exciting. We've got another Stryker rep here
Saw
out there
that.
now. Yeah.
Saw that.
I thought you might recognize.
Looked like
So-
she was doing an in-service or something.
Yeah, doing it in service
Great.
for the new stretcher. We've got a
Great.
power loader, which will, you know,
Yeah, excellent.
yeah, people are
Not biased at
getting
all.
bigger. Well, it's a wonderful product, it really is. It just helps because as EMTs, they're not always the biggest in stature, and people are getting a little bit bigger, and so the power stretcher really saves backs putting it in. So it's a very nice addition with the new ambulance, really help us out. Mutual aid, we've requested mutual aid 79 times. East Hampton Fire Department, we've gotten 64 times, 26 they've come to us as primary ambulance transport, 35 for paramedic intercept, 3 for assistance with fire calls. Westfield has come to us 10 times, 6 times as primary ambulance, 3 times as a paramedic intercept, and 1 for a fire call.
And that's also calendar year.
Yes, that's also calendar year. Let's see, other communities that have come to our assistance have been Holyoke Fire Department, West Hampton Fire Department, we had a rash of fires there for a bit. Barnes had come in, Northampton Fire Department, and Montgomery Fire Department. They've each come once each. Let's see, we've provided mutual aid 33 times. 20 times we went to East Hampton and were a primary ambulance for East Hampton while they had other stuff going.
Did that go up over the last period?
Yeah, I don't have a statistical analysis, but from the hip, I would say yes.
Yeah, when I was talking to Patty Line, he was
Yep.
saying that we were doing more
Yes.
assisting other towns.
Well, I think the other towns are now, knowing that we have a staffed ambulance, are calling us. So,
Okay.
yeah, we're
That's a good thing.
available more often. Yes, very good, absolutely. We did a primary ambulance to Westfield 7 times. We went twice to Northampton and 2 times to Montgomery, structure fires in Montgomery, and 2 times to West Hampton. structure fires and, just structure fires for West Hampton. Hose testing in June, we tested 53 lengths of 2.5-inch hose. 21 of those lengths failed. 6 new lengths have been purchased and put into service. 19 lengths of 1.75 had failed. 19 lengths had been tested, only 4 had failed. Since this was written, we've actually gotten 2 more lengths of 2.5. So our hose is older. We've worked with, at the end of budget cycle, to spend money there, knowing that that was a concern. When we get into the budgetary process, that's an ongoing challenge for us. So just keeping up on equipment.
What's the life of hoses? Because I remember one of the first things you did when you came on was replace all the hoses.
Well, I replaced a lot of, we have a bunch of different hose, so hose varies quite a bit. When I first came on, I got in a grant, and we had replaced our large diameter hose, which is a supply hose and can go 1,000 feet. The hose that we had was probably 40 years old, yeah, and so we replaced that. That was just, really needed to go. The 2.5, that most of it failed, I mean, some of that was from the 70s, honestly.
Wow.
So it's not a wonder that it didn't pass. The complement of hose that we got was basically to keep a full level of hose in that size in the trucks new, and then we have some backup hose to complement that. So we don't necessarily need all 50 lengths of it, and because of budgetary restraints, we're not looking to have a bunch of extra hose. We actually have some failed hose that we're going to cut couplings off of probably, but if the community wanted some hose, probably have to put it through them. It's worthless to us. Sometimes people use it for like dock bumpers and those kinds of things. So it's available if people are interested in that, and I'll try and work with Ed and get it out there a little bit more publicly if we can, if need to. But it's certainly available. Equipment purchases, we got the new brush truck. It's equipped with gear. We've been working on it quite a bit, just adding stuff to it. Through some of the end-of-year funding, I had gotten a little bit more brush gear to go along with it. One of the challenges you have with our nice new brush truck is when you go out, especially on some of these nice warm days that we've been having, when you wear what they call structural turnout gear, which is what you go into a fire with, it keeps the hotness away from you, but it's like wearing a winter coat. So in 90-degree weather, if you have to fight a brush fire, they have brush fire gear, which we're trying to get some of, so we don't beat the guys up. It's a lighter duty. It's you see it on like some of the California fires. It's like the yellow shirt, green pants, the Smokey the Bear hat kind of thing, lighter gloves, and eye protection, because going through the woods just kind of hits your eyes quite often. So we're working to kind of bring ourselves up in that regard also.
I hear your folks really like the brush truck, the new brush truck.
Yes, absolutely. And it was fun to have the kids name it. So I don't know if I would have picked Hot Shot myself, but it's a cool name. And it's fun to have, the kids take part in that.
That's cool.
Yeah, public education has been going really well. I've got, one guy dedicated to that who just got full-time job in Westfield Fire Department, because all of our guys besides myself are part-time. And he's done an excellent job with public education. We have received a grant last year. We just submitted a grant for this year. Look to have some, we've worked with Senior Center, worked with Police Department and Triad, planting signs. I think Chief Goyette, myself, and Dave Fenton from Triad, on one of the hottest days of the year, went out there and planted signs at 22 Pomeroy Meadow, which is a difficult one when you go in with an ambulance to identify which is where. And so street signs is one of those things that's particularly concerning for me. And Triad and police have been are great partners. Triad has some great initiatives. So on the hottest day of the year, we went out and planted a bunch of signs there, and that's an ongoing program. We actually do that throughout the year. Anybody who calls the senior center for not very much money can get a sign that they'll put lettering on. We actually, through some of the grant funding that we have, buy the posts for it, and fire department personnel, while they're on shift, I send them out when they're available, and they plant posts and put up signs. So if anyone needs house numbers, they're great, they're identifiable, they're standardized for the town, and work really well, so.
So they should contact the police department?
Should
the fire
contact the
department?
the senior center.
Senior center,
Yep,
okay.
the senior center, yep. It's a partnership with senior center,
Okay.
Triad and police and us. So,
Can you just remind me something, Chief? I
Sure.
think this Saturday is the shredding event. I think that the Senior Center and Triad are putting that on. Is it
Yep.
the DA's office or Triad? But anyway,
but yeah,
yeah, in the parking lot is the shredding.
yeah, Triad does a good amount of stuff. They really do a especially good job with the seniors in town. They have some good programs. I've actually worked with Triad for many years, 30 years. The gentleman who runs it is Dave Fenton, and he's been doing it for probably longer than I have. And gave him a ride as Santa Claus once in a fire truck, of which I remind him when I can embarrass him with that.
So just to take off on the event, is there a cost to it, or is there a maximum that people can bring? Do you know?
I don't believe so, Janet.
Yeah.
Sure, if you, would you mind coming up?
Oh, Lori, good, thanks.
I was a member of Triad for 16 years, so
Wonderful.
I can speak on that. 1 second. Lori Loisel, Hillside Meadows. This is a Triad event which falls underneath the DA's office.
Okay,
That's the connection.
thanks.
And there is no cost. It's 9 to 11. I'm not sure if you're limited. I don't think so. And they usually, and I think the chief can say, they're usually right down near the fire station. So you don't even have to get out of your car. Just pull up. They'll take the stuff, put it in the shredder.
So they shred it right on site then?
Yes,
Good, very
and you
good.
can watch it. So if you're a little concerned about your social security number,
Well,
there's safety. You can watch the little machine do its thing.
great, great, thank you.
Thanks, Lori.
Oh, my pleasure.
Let's see. For fire prevention, well, for equipment, we also had gotten a smoke ejector fan, which is in fighting fires, a lot of fighting fires directing air movement. And so we've got a fan that works well for that. It actually sets our 2 engines up. So the one that we use for mutual aid will have some of the same equipment as the one that we use for here in town events. So it actually works out well. For fire prevention stuff, we've done like some school inspections, the building inspector and myself. It was good to meet Aaron. Aaron, we had a good conversation. Ed had been in attendance and also. I think that we're moving in good direction there. The school's got some challenges they're going to have to look at for some of the maintenance stuff that they have to deal with. It's an older building and fire alarms are old, and they're still having some problems with the roof and some icing problems that I look forward to addressing as a community. I think that, you know, I've certainly got my safety concerns. The building inspector has his concerns as well. The school has limited funding, so I think we're going to have to kind of team up, and as we look down the road, there's probably going to be some money spent in that direction, I would hope, and just plugging a little bit for them now in regards to it. I also will be working with them for an emergency planning meeting, which we sit down with just all the stuff that comes these days, active shooters and fire alarms and bomb threats and white powders and all those kinds of things that we need to deal with in a modern day. They have some good plans in place already, and we'll work with them to make sure that they're up to date, because that's always stuff that changes. We went to the schools today, sat with some of the younger kids to let them know what fire drills are all about, and then made some noise, because we're good at that. And all the kids came piling out, and school did a good job, so it's good to see them. And we'll do fire drills periodically through the year with them.
That was something my son came home and was talking all about.
Yeah.
That's what he did the entire
Yeah.
day.
Oh, they love to see us come for that. Yeah, yeah.
Fire
yeah.
drill day.
Yeah, yeah.
So he was
And
excited about
mostly
that.
we try and work with the schools, but we also like to make sure that they are ready for surprises too.
Yeah.
So we'll do a little bit of that. They did have a refrigerator that had caught fire in the school. That was something that had happened just at the beginning of the week. It was not a major event as far as smoke goes. It actually wasn't enough smoke to set off fire alarms, but just the refrigerator itself, I'd never seen it before. Like I say, I got 30 years in. It had melted the freezer area, had to pry it open. When we pried it open, it was still warm inside. Even though there wasn't smoke from it, I just certainly would put out there that anything that off-gases because of decomposition from heat is pretty dangerous to breathe. So it's good that it was removed, it's put outside. I took a bunch of pictures. As I was in the process of taking pictures, trying to do a little bit of sleuthing as to why something like that would occur, because it's pretty unusual, there was a mouse that I think got into it. So the principal is already working with Board of Health. They have a yearly plan for rodent type stuff, and so hopefully that'll be not a problem for any other fridges in the area. Yeah, let's see. I think that's mostly it. Like I say, we submitted our public education grant, and I think probably the most exciting news is seeing the ambulance just on the brink of being in service. So it's exciting for us and for the community, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Any questions?
Questions, Nancy? You folks?
Your new facility that you have in the back, the trailer.
The new facility, yes. Yeah, it's working out well. We actually had a little bit of an air conditioner problem, which damaged some of the sheetrock. It's a used, and I think there may have been a previous leak. To preventatively, we got in there, took out some of that sheetrock, and replaced it and mitigated any kind of potential moisture problems that might have arisen. Just got to take care of the folks when they're sleeping in there. It reminds you that it's a used trailer, but it's a wonderful trailer. It's crew quarters. It makes all the difference in the world. We use the end part of the trailer just for medical supplies, which is a huge benefit to us. Just where the ambulance are currently parked, we have puddles underneath them currently. Whenever it rains, not now, but when it rains, we squeegee them out. In the winter, it becomes more of a problem because of dripping snow. I found a frog in one of the puddles recently. Didn't know. Hated to displace his permanent home, but we don't want them under the ambulance. It's not ideal. We look forward to working with folks for a new station. I think it certainly is something that we need and want to keep that on agenda as best we can. Pass that.
I just have one other question. With the mutual aid, I think you had mentioned 64 times the mutual aid.
Yep.
When that happens, do we bill for that, or do we defer the billing to another town?
It depends on the type of mutual aid. If they come for fire mutual aid, we call them in for a structure fire, there's no bill for that.
Okay.
So if we go to them, they come to us. I mean, in Montgomery, we went up there a couple of times back when they lost their chief. We were on site and actually had run that fire until 6 in the morning when a call came in for, I had to run a fire here.
Right.
It had started. So it was a busy kind of day. But there's no billing that goes for that.
Yeah. And ambulance calls?
For ambulance calls, if they come to us or we go to them as a primary, if we go to them as a primary, we bill. If they come to us as a primary, they bill.
Okay.
So that's how that works. For an intercept, if they come as an intercept, either because you need a second medic in, or if you have a basic crew in, which sometimes happens also, then they have a flat rate fee that they charge us for that.
But we do the billing on that?
We do the billing, yes. Yeah, and our billing has really worked out pretty good. I recognize that we had some opportunities in billing by chasing paperwork, and had dedicated one of my guys who is also an Amherst firefighter, worked for South Hadley also, but is very proficient in the details. And so we increased just by bringing him on to really allot time for specific to billing. We had added 25 additional billable calls in the same calendar time period, which has the potential to be you know, at full billing, it would be $50,000. If we do 30 to 40% of that, it's sliding to that, you know, depending on type of call. But that's been certainly helpful, and it's good to see.
Just to bring back to your folks, Saturday night, I guess it was, a neighbor had an ambulance call. I think it was her dad, cardiac arrest or something, but afterwards she had nothing but great things to say about your staff, so if you can pass that along.
Absolutely. Always like to do that kind of stuff. I think the men and women at the department, they, you know, we got a great group. We really do. They work hard. They're committed. They do a good job of providing, you know, service to the town in a personable way. Most of it is what I, you know, customer service.
Yeah, they
It's
probably
what-
don't hear it enough.
It's what we do.
Yeah.
So it's nice to hear, and I will definitely pass it on to the group.
Great.
Good?
Thanks a lot, Chief.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay. Great. Thanks
Appreciate
very
it.
much.
Randall Kemp, Highway Department. How are you?
I'm well, how are you?
Good, thanks.
Good evening, Randall Kemp. I'll start off with the transfer station. Welcome, Matt. We hired our emergency temporary attendant for the permanent position of attendant. I hope pending your signature on the PCF. We were recently awarded $5,250 in Sustainable Materials Recovery Program grant funds. My administrative assistant, Josette, has been instrumental at maximizing these funds through tracking and expansion of programs. The funds are, it's based on a point system. You get points for collecting different things or different incentives that the DEP gives you. About $350 per point. The Board of Health also passed a trash hauler regulation, which got us an additional point as well. Any questions on that?
No, congratulations.
Okay. In highway, I can't believe school's already started again. Summer flu. Two of my staff have been working with the water department this week to finish up quarterly water meter readings. Other than that, we've been mowing at the athletic fields and municipal grounds. We spent a couple days cleaning up the parking lots and grounds at Norris prior to the first day of school, filling potholes and washouts as they arise. Same thing with cleaning up fallen trees. We've had inordinate amount come down recently. We've got some roadside mowing done where we're notified of visibility issues. And we have not been able to get to too much other stuff. We have a large backlog of work, including grading dirt roads, catch basin repair, roadside mowing, and catch basin cleaning. Our backlog is greater than usual because in addition to the equipment operator position that has been vacant since April, an employee who was out on medical has decided to retire. So we've been without 2 employees for the last month and a half. I've continued to accept MS4 stormwater proposals, as we talked about earlier a couple weeks ago, and we have to make a decision very soon. I'll discuss with Ed, and extremely likely you will see a proposal in front of you by next meeting. In the meantime, we've been chipping away at the notice of intent, which is due October 1, and made some good progress on completion of it. Ed asked me to go over the bridge reports with you guys. Do you have copies of them or want to go over with them? Generally, if you look at them, the scores of 6 through 9 are fine. Scores of 3 through 5, we should be looking at fixing or at least monitoring. And 1 to 2, we should be fixing much sooner than later. Wyben Road, Sackett Brook Bridge needs some guardrail work to address a minor traffic accident damage. We can take care of that through Highway Department. There's something, Scour, that is washing out underneath the bridge. It's kind of like erosion within the stream channel. Fulmer Road, Manhan Bridge, this protective coating below the water line is degraded and will likely require engineering evaluation and permits to repair it as it is in the channel, and also that water runs into the reservoir. Russellville Manahan Road needs some guardrail work. Again, we can do that. East Street Manhan River. Everybody knows that bridge looks pretty horrible. The railings and curb need attention. I guess the big question is, can it wait until replacement? I don't know the answer to that. We'll probably discuss it further. Torrey Street, North Branch Manhan River. The road needs some surface work, pile caps and guardrail work. It was listed as a severe deficiency. We'll probably have to look at an engineer to consult for that one. Valley Road, Moose Brook has pavement and other minor issues. So in that, anything that's listed like guardrail work, crack sealing, resurfacing of the roadway, that's all work that we can do through the highway department. But as I've mentioned, stuff within the channel will probably require permitting. Anything structural we'll need an engineer for. So we'll talk about consulting with an engineer and seeing what kind of plan we need to go forward.
You're going to discuss that with Ed, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Any questions?
I've got two unrelated questions. Are you done your whole presentation, or you want?
Yes.
Okay. So one is that leak out there. I know it's not your leak on the highway in front of the fire department. I've been asked many times what's happening with that.
My understanding, and you'd have to reach out to the water superintendent or District 2 because it's a state road. They can't identify the leak after multiple attempts to, with I guess they have listening devices that try to triangulate the location. They can't locate it. Last I heard, I thought the strategy to fix it was going to be to dig a trench, fill it with rock so it bleeds out over the bank.
What's your opinion on
I
that?
I defer to the water superintendent on that.
Okay. And that means our trucks, fire trucks and everything have to go right over that?
How long has it been leaking? Since last winter?
Yeah.
And there's been no sinking of the roadway or anything, so
Yeah.
I don't,
Just hope a truck doesn't.
not my road, not my,
Well, it's in front of our fire station.
It
so
is.
Yeah. Yeah, so we need to, do you follow up with somebody on that, or the water commissioner does?
the water department has been in contact with District 2.
Okay. Okay. So would you mind giving us an update next meeting?
I could
Just
reach
let Ed
out
know.
to the water superintendent, yeah, to
Yeah,
get back
just
to
let
you.
Ed know and update. Because I got a number of questions the other day on that.
Okay.
Thanks. And the other question is, you had put in for a new plow truck last year and you didn't get it.
Mhm.
So I hate to say it, but we're getting close to winter. What's that going to do to your crew and your equipment?
We're going to continue to use the old one, and if it breaks down, it's going to be sidelined and we'll be without a plow truck.
And that's the largest of your trucks, right?
It's one of, yeah, we have
Okay.
5 large ones.
Is there any alternative plans that we can look at, leasing or buying used or anything like that?
Sure.
Okay. I mean,
I thought the last strategy we were discussing was borrowing. That's the last I heard, but that was when Donna was still here, so I don't know
it's
where
just
that
being
went.
September, December's coming quick.
I agree.
It's not going to snow till February, but, we'll see. Okay.
Of course, the first thing that has to happen to actually make that truck viable is he has to be able to fill both of those vacant positions.
I'm
if he
sure he'll be
doesn't,
able to do
then-
that, yeah. But you need that truck anyways. That's your big truck, that's the main truck out there?
It's one of,
Yeah.
we have kind of 2 sizes of trucks. We have like a 1-ton and pickup truck size, and then the big yellow dump trucks you see going around.
So if you can work with Ed on that, because I don't know about the rest of you, I think we should look into that sooner than later. We don't want you out there with broken equipment. Okay, great, thanks. Any
Thank you.
questions?
I just want to make a comment. I was waiting till you were finished about the transfer station.
Yes.
The personnel changes you've made have made a real difference, I think. It's better organized, more customer friendly. I mean, it just works, so,
I'm glad to hear it.
nice job.
Thank you.
Before Randall leaves the podium, of these bridges that you just went over with the select board, how many of them may be 20 feet or less, and how many of them are, and which ones might be over 20 feet? Obviously, the state has, doesn't mean we'll get it, but the state has come out with the small bridge grant program.
That's the one for 10 to 20-foot spans?
Yes.
So when that program was announced, I had recently been to a superintendent's meeting where I was at a table with a bridge engineer, and he offered to come out gratis and look at our bridges to see if there were any work that could be done that might be able to utilize those grants. And these bridges, unfortunately, are not. We have very few bridges that, it's a very narrow
Yes. So these are all
span.
are bigger.
Bigger, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
So what you said, 2 of the bridges will require some engineering.
I think at least 2. Like I said, I can do the guardrail work, crack sealing, resurfacing, that's all stuff up above, but anything structural or within the river channel would require engineering and permitting through Concom at least, and I don't know about Thai Comedy. I reached out to the Holyoke Water Superintendent, and he didn't get back to me today, so.
So can I ask, other than Chapter 90, is there any other source of funds?
For bridges, good question, I don't know the answer. And again, any money we would use from Chapter 90 is money that we're not going to be putting into our roads, so.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Nope, thanks, Randall.
Thank you much.
Thank you.
Hazard mitigation, grant applications.
I think it was just put on here for general discussion and follow-up between what seem to be the 2 lead possible applications that the town may go forward with through the emergency management director, one being the water main that runs under the
Right.
under the river next to the bridge on Route 10 down by Sheldon's, and the other being the possibility of applying for a standby emergency generator at Norris Elementary School.
So where do we need to take those 2, Ed?
Basically, we've got probably a good amount of the information for the water main because the water department had that engineered. So we're in good shape for that one.
And
Actually,
Aaron was working on the
Aaron has
generator.
been actually very good, and since we've got 2 Aarons now, one with an E and one with an A, Aaron with an E has been very good, and I know that she is working with the other Aaron, and what we're going to try to do, the first steps is we're going to have somebody actually look at the school, try to figure out what the need or what, we'll say, how much of the equipment in that school would want to be run by a generator so that it can be sized, a transfer switch that matches it can be sized. From there, we can get an idea of what the equipment costs and probably the labor to put together a budget on this. But those will be the first steps on that.
So things are going well.
I think they are.
Aaron?
Yes, and I would like to thank the schools for, that they have stepped up very well with this discussion, so.
Good.
Thanks.
So it was kind of left.
They introduce yourself.
Yeah, Erin Kuchar, 49 Coleman Road, Chair of School Committee. So I had kind of just sent the email because I don't know who owns this process thing. Erin and I are going to do a webinar on Monday that kind of talks about it because we couldn't attend any of the ones that they had that were face-to-face. And then I was going to connect with him. And then I don't know if I would talk with you about like you said, the needs. I don't know any of that stuff. Like I don't know what the town is looking for I mean, I know we want that to be a place that, because it can hold a lot of people, so the whole idea would be that the generator, that's where people can go, and that's why we would need it. But I don't know enough, I mean, so I don't know, I kind of was gonna see this webinar and then try to figure out what,
Yeah, we'll talk after
Okay.
that, and
So
we'll,
we have Ed.
what we'll have to do is actually bring in an electrical engineer
Yeah.
to take a look at it, and one of the steps will be that, they will say, okay, what do you want to, actually continue to run? I mean, obviously, it's gonna be all the kitchen equipment, number
Right.
one, probably gonna be the office, and from there,
Yeah.
the gym, the auditorium, what have you, so, we'll work with emergency management director, the school, and the Board of Health to figure out
okay. And there's
where we
something
wanna
that
go with
has
that.
to be on, is it the 1st of October where the letter of intent has to go out, I think? I thought?
I thought it was a little later than that, but I could be wrong. I'll have to check on that.
Okay, so after, it's Monday so I was gonna talk with Aaron after Monday and, and then we can reach out to Ed
great.
and go from there.
Yeah, and I think, from my memory, I think the emergency management director and myself and somebody else have a conference call, I think it's on the 13th, also to follow up on some of this.
Now, this is jumping forward, but if we get the generator, these require regular maintenance and starting and stopping. So Randall, is that something that you think your folks would be responsible for? I mean, I just want to make sure people are thinking of this as we go forward.
Usually it's been whoever's facility it is located at. The chief, police chief takes care of his generator, school would have to budget for
Okay,
that.
so we'd have to plan ahead.
Yeah, and my recommendation would probably be that we enter into, whether it's going to be the generator for here, the school, or what have you, that we probably look at entering into a maintenance contract for that.
Just have to plan that in the budget, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, firing them up once a month is one thing, but you should have them actually periodically inspected.
Right. Okay, thanks. Okay, select board to vote award, the vendor to award town hall generator bid to. You did the bid, you have the bids back in, so do you have one lowest reasonable and responsible vendor that you want to tell us about?
Yes, we do. That would be K. Sacco Electric, who came in at $49,885. It would be the low and responsible bidder. Everything is in order. They submitted all the correct paperwork, and their references actually check out outstandingly. And I will say that there was a widespread in the bids from the $49,885, which I'm recommending be awarded all the way up to $124,574.38.
Wow, well, the state only gave us 60,000, so.
Yes.
It looks, I have a question on this because I was looking at this last night. It looks like most of the bids are hovering, are hovering between $60,000 and $75,000. That's where they all are. This one's significantly less than that, and then there's obviously an outlier that's extremely high. Are we at all worried about why that's? I mean, it's significantly low compared to the next lowest one. We're talking.
I was until I checked the references.
Okay.
Yeah, that was one of my concerns because, what was it an outlier? But this company has come back, has done work in the community I live in, who I still know some of the people involved with the maintenance facilities and whatever, and everyone I checked with had nothing but good things to say. And actually, the first thing when I checked back in West Springfield was the maintenance director said, "Yeah, I've had this phone call a number of times." He's going to say, "I'll tell you right off the bat, as you're probably concerned about how low they are." And they said,
Oh, good.
"Yep." And he said, "No, they did great work for us. We've used them on other projects. Would use them again." So
That's good news.
absolutely, it doesn't happen all that often, but in this particular case, glad to see
Where
it.
are they out of, Ed?
They work out of Hamden.
Okay, so they're local.
Yep.
That's good.
Ed, Jim Labrie was very actively involved in this process in terms of looking at different companies and looking at the needs of the building and all that sort of thing. Have you been in touch with him at all about this?
Actually, it was some of the quotes that Jim had gotten probably about a year ago that I actually utilized to put together the bids and specs. I was a little disappointed that of the three companies that he got the quotes for, actually, two of those companies, and one of which he had thought very highly of, chose not to submit a bid on it. But yes, Jim had done a good amount of legwork, which, while putting the bid and the spec together, was still not easy, but what he had done last year helped immensely.
So these line for line, item for item, the specs match up with every, I know we
Yeah, that's-
propose them and then they respond to it.
Yeah, the only thing that might differ.
Refurbished equipment, none
No,
of those.
it's all new. I mean,
People in under-
some of them may have bid Generac, some of them may have bid Kohler, because you can't just specify one. If it's like, they can bid it. But yeah, this is apples to apples. And in some cases, if you catch it right, you can get people or companies that may be hungry for work, and you might luck out with that. In other particular cases, if they're all really super busy or whatever, you may get companies that just bid and say, well, this is what I'm going to bid. If I get it, I get it. If I don't, I don't. So, and I think that's reflected by the range of bids you're seeing here.
But it's great to ask the questions now before they start working on it.
Yes, absolutely correct.
So I'll make a motion then to go in contract with K-Saco Electric for the purposes of a generator for the town hall.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous? Thank you.
And I have the 3 sets of contracts which needs signing. You can choose to sign them later if you want, but before you leave, I will need your signatures.
If you don't mind holding them off. Sure.
As long as they get signed.
Okay. Environmental bond bill, House 4835.
And this was put on here probably actually over a week ago, just as a tickler or a reminder. Environmental bond bill H4835 was passed by the House and Senate, went to the governors. It has been signed. Originally, that contained $850,000 for construction of the Greenway here in Southampton. To this point in time, we know that the governor did sign it. We do know the governor also vetoed some items in there. At this point in time, we know it's been signed. We aren't positive whether the $850,000 is still in that bond bill. We believe it is, but we have not gotten confirmation on that as of yet.
So the good news is he signed it.
Yes. And there's
Potentially
no
bad
bad
news
news.
is-
There's some gray news, and we're still hanging out there. But
So let us know as soon as you hear.
yes, I will.
Any other necessary business? I've got several items, so if you folks don't mind, if we just do the PCFs and do the warrants first and come back, is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. So PCFs, 2 PCFs for Brian Banal, 1 paramedic firefighter, new hire, 1 as an emergency and 1 on call. 2 for John Ferrero, paramedic firefighter, new hire, emergency on call. And then Stephen Dudek, transfer station attendant, new hire, part-time with benefits. Francine and I were at the Finance Committee meeting. They went through them all. They have all the signatures. They have all the funding, and everything's in order. So unless you have an issue with one particular one, if we can get a motion on all 5 of them?
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve all the PCFs that are listed here.
And I'll second that.
Okay, just half a second, please. Make sure, okay. Any discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We have to sign these beforehand. Okay, Francine, you've signed these warrants, I believe?
Yes, all
Well,
but
Nah, some of them you signed, Mr. Martin.
Okay,
So
so they're
it's a
all signed by
combination.
either Francine and I.
yes.
Would you like to read them off? Okay,
All right, PD 19-6 for $38,426.34. P 19-8 for $221,212.47. PD 19-8A for $155,878.35. W 19-9 for $111,432.77. And the last one is W 19-9A for $39,056.20.
okay, we don't need any motions, they're all signed, so thank you. Other documents requiring signature, there's none. Minutes to approve, there's none. We already did our calendar and our announcements for the rest of this month and into October. Okay, so that brings us back to any other necessary business that can't wait to September 18th, regularly scheduled board meeting. Okay, so I know I have a couple of them, you folks may have some. One is that Charlie was the vice chair, and we don't have a vice chair. So we need to have somebody fill that seat, figuratively and functionally. So,
I,
go ahead.
Can we wait until everyone's back? Does it have to be done tonight?
Does not have to be done tonight.
Can
It's,
we wait and see if Jim's back for the next meeting?
if you'd like to do that, that's fine. You okay with that,
Yeah, I
Francine?
think
I'm
it's a good
fine.
idea.
If you're,
Yeah.
you're.
I think that's a good
you're
idea.
one.
Okay, so
You
we're
just
gonna,
have to make sure you're here. 'cause
Yeah,
there's
well,
no
maybe
vice
we can
chair.
put it back on the agenda so it doesn't
Yeah.
go too long.
Yep.
If that's okay.
that was Randall Kemp.
And besides, it's usually like the clerk's position, you know, that might have to take minutes or be responsible that usually it gets dumped on someone when they miss a meeting.
Right.
So while we're doing this, there were some committee assignments that Charlie had that we have to reshuffle. One is the Board of Health liaison, correct? Okay, one is we need a liaison from the Board of Selectmen to the Capital Improvement Committee. And we need somebody to finish out the one-year term until May of next year for the P cubed B.
Yeah, those are the three that he had.
Is there anybody on the select board that doesn't have any assignments?
And just, yeah. And Mr. Martin, before you go on, let me just kind of interject. Two of these, the Board of Health and the Capital Improvement Committee, are liaison. There's no voting rights that go along with those.
Right.
The appointment of one member to the PPPB, it's actually by bylaw that one of you is elected to that. It comes, that person actually counts towards a quorum and has voting rights. However, it is really only that, in my opinion, really reading the bylaw, it is only that one person that counts towards that quorum or voting rights. If that person cannot make that meeting, it doesn't mean that another member of the Board of Selectmen can fill in for that.
Well, that's
for
interesting
those-
because I filled in for the last PQB meeting and voted, so that's good to know.
So with that, you may want to go back to the PQB and see if that vote tilted anything.
No, it did not.
No, it
Oh,
didn't.
it
It
did
was
not.
approving all these
Did-
PCFs that were on, that I
Okay.
just doubly approved.
Okay, but I mean going forward, Rini, because I filled in for when Charlie was absent too, we can go and report back, we just
Right.
can't
Correct.
vote.
Right, okay.
Yeah, okay. So seriously, is that something, are you interested in those three?
Yep, I've looked at all of them, and I'm interested in inheriting all three of them.
Okay, so you'd be a
But you
voting
mentioned
member.
do I need to be voted in or elected to the?
Well, we're gonna
By the-
nominate you for all of them, if you're interested.
Sure, but wasn't he saying that
Yeah,
the
You had to be elected.
PQB has to elect me into that? Is that what you were saying, or?
The select
Yeah,
board does.
you were actually going to make a separate motion on the one to the PPPB because you're actually appointing him
Right, but it's
or
coming from the Board of
her,
Selectmen.
which would, yeah,
It's
as
not
one
coming
member of the Board of Selectmen to that and for a specific term.
Okay, so let's
Because I'll
just,
have to notify the town clerk, and the individual in that case will have to be sworn in for that appointment.
okay, so let's do them separately, just so we'll have it on record. So can we have a motion to elect Matt for the liaison for the Board of Health?
I move to elect Matt as the liaison to the Board of Health.
And I'll second that.
Any discussion?
My only point is that ordinarily the Board of Health meets at the same time as the Select Board, so it's been very difficult for anyone to participate in those meetings.
But I did write to the Board of Health, and I asked them to please consider a meeting on the opposite Tuesday, and Ben Hogan, the chair, said that he would try to do that.
So with that in mind, because that was
So
a
maybe you
question I
could
said,
follow up, Matt, with that, Ben.
if they're not willing to do that, we could elect to change our schedule too,
Mhm.
so that we're on the opposing week.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Our
hate,
meetings generally are scheduled
right,
more in advance than theirs.
yeah, it's just an important,
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
very important.
okay, so we'll see what Ben says. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? Okay, need a motion to elect Matt to the capital, is it officially a Capital Improvement Committee? Yes, Capital Improvement Committee as a liaison from the Board of Selectmen.
So moved.
Second?
I'll second it.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 And I'll make a motion to appoint Matt to the PQB.
I'll second that.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You're official, Matt.
Perfect.
If you need any assistance from any of us, let us know.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
A couple of things, and maybe it's part of your list, so let me know if it is.
Yep.
There was a discussion about having the master plan committee
Yep.
get going again, so I don't know if we're going to talk about that or defer it to maybe till Jim's here. And the other thing was the public safety committee. Now, Charlie's a member of that, but I don't think it was as a liaison assignment. I think he
Right.
was independently a member of that committee.
Right, I'm the
And it-
liaison
You're the liaison.
from the
to that.
board. He is elected.
Okay, and there was discussion also about having a meeting, because Francine, you had expressed an interest in being part of that. And so I'm just following up.
You, the MPI you're talking about, or the
I just wanted
public
to mention
safety?
that both of them were mentioned
The
about being
location.
picked up.
Of the public safety complex. They were a small group, a subgroup of that committee.
Yeah.
And I volunteered, but
Right.
again, I haven't heard anything that they've had a meeting, intend to have a meeting.
I'm going to update you on that one.
Okay.
I spoke to Charlie this morning because I wanted to find out what was going on with this, and I reminded him that we needed this meeting, and he said he's going to schedule it within the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
And I'm going to get back to the MPI, but he's also on the agricultural committee, but he's appointed there also. Am I right with that, Ed?
Yes.
Okay, so.
And he also independently was appointed to the Capital Improvement Committee, not as a liaison, but
Right.
as a member of that committee.
Right, he's a member, but Matt is the liaison.
Correct.
Now, the MPI, we were at the planning committee last night, and they selected Cindy Palmer to be their liaison. So she's going to be the liaison from planning. So we need to put a meeting together. I know you volunteered to be the MPI representative of the board, which I'm fine with, if
Am
you
too.
folks. So you're still okay with that?
Yep.
We'll put a motion? Can we have a motion?
So I'll make a motion to appoint Francine Tishman as the Select Board liaison to the Master Plan Implementation Committee.
Okay, second?
Second?
Okay, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, Unanimous?
Thanks,
Thank you.
Francine.
Thank you.
So now, I would think if you could work with Ed to get all the names and maybe call the meeting, because there's no chair, because Hank Barton left.
You're a ways away from being able to call a meeting. You have 3 members of what I believe is an 8-member committee.
So the other committees haven't gotten back to you?
Correct, and then you still have 4 at large, which we haven't seen anyone come forward
Okay, and
yet.
I think if we kind of notify people one way or another that there are seats available, and if they are interested in serving as at-large members, it would
Yep.
be great. Yeah, it's a 10-person committee.
Okay, so we're looking to you on that one now.
All right, if you want me to outreach, I know planning board has, select board, that's 2.
Yep.
And we'll get to the other,
Yeah, I think Concom said that they had somebody.
Concom is the other one that has
Yeah.
provided us with a name. Park Commission, I believe, their first meeting will be on, I think, I know they're meeting on the 26th, and that may be their first meeting since I sent them the request.
Maybe you can gently twist their arms.
Maybe even more than gently.
all right, so I'll outreach to them and you and I will.
Okay.
Thank you.
And thank you.
Christina wanted to ask something.
Oh, come on up.
Christina Madsen, Rattle Hill. I would be interested in getting back onto that committee. I wasn't on the implementation committee, but I was on the original committee. And I would like to get back. We haven't had an historical commission meeting for quite a while, and one is scheduled for next Wednesday.
Okay.
So you haven't heard from historical, have you?
No, I have not.
So
Christina.
I'll volunteer at that meeting, but if someone else from historic would like to be on the master plan implementation, then I would be interested in becoming a member at large.
So you're going to bring it up at the next meeting, volunteer, and depending on which way it goes, you want to be on anyways.
And then would I just contact Francine or Ed? Do I put I
would
guess
go
I
to
have to put an
Ed.
application in if it's coming in at large, is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, the two different paths would be if you were chosen by the Historical Commission to be the representative, the chair should, email me and let me know that, and I can let Janine and the Board of Selectmen know. If it is somebody else, then yes, you can either get it online or outside my office, one of the applications to serve on a board or committee, and you would return that to me, which I
I
would.
know Bob Kozub was on the implementation committee before it disbanded, and he may well want to be on as the historic rep.
Thanks for volunteering.
Thank you.
Okay, PVPC, which is the host for the MPO board. Charlie was on that, and you have to be a select board member in order to be on that committee. And as I understand it, and correct me because I may not, there's an election process that they go through of interested people that are select persons that have to go through a vote and everything and be elected on that. So we need to inform PVPC that Charlie's no longer on the select board, and my guess is, and you can follow up, they're going to go through a whole new voting process. So it's key that hopefully one of us will want to be on that committee, step up and fill out an application. But right now, I think they're working on that $6 million grant for the rail trail, the Greenway. So we want to definitely follow up on that and make sure we don't lose that. And also, the mayor in Westfield is on the PVPC for the Westfield Rail Trail. And, we can ask, and I'm not sure who the mayor is, do you know?
Is it Sullivan?
Sullivan.
Sullivan, okay. So,
Brian.
Brian Sullivan. So we can ask him if for some reason we can't get another member on there, if he could look out for us, because the Westfield Rail Trail is going to connect with our rail trail. So I'm sure, the synergy's there
And East Hampton as well.
in East Hampton. But I don't know that they have a member on that or not. I just know Westfield is.
I think there's about, there's 3 cities that are together in a different, I think it's Holyoke, Westfield, and East Hampton might be together, and then we're with a lot of the smaller
Smaller
hotels.
ones,
In fact,
yeah.
I think Southampton is the largest of the towns that's in this particular region.
Largest of the small towns. I don't think we can do this, but I made a note of it. I mean, we can ask PVPC if we can substitute for Charlie by another select board member. I think they're going to say no, but I think it's worth the question.
I don't think we can. In fact, I had a conversation with them about that, and right now I think the alternate is the on the select board of Chesterfield. But anyway, it would be worth asking what the process is going forward on that.
Yeah. Okay. And he was also working with Secretary Ash on the East Street Bridge. We have $1 million that we got, and we're looking for additional funds because it's going to cost us like $2.5 million. So we need to stay in contact with Secretary Ash's office. We're going to need engineering work. going forward. And there's some money, I believe, set aside for us, but we need to keep the political contacts going. So we have to discuss amongst ourselves how we're going to do that. And also Senator Hummerson's office for the Greenway design and purchase. I believe there's another, that $6 million is involved there. So we need to make sure that we stay in contact with his office. And he is also working on a $1 million bond for the safety complex. So we need in the next meeting or so to kind of put our heads together and decide how we're going to parse this out and stay in contact with these folks, make sure we get our share of the funding.
Mhm.
I think that's all the notes that I had. Does anybody else have anything under any other necessary business that can't wait? Francine?
Can
I
I
guess my question
go ahead, Francine?
would be, is there any intervening between now and our next meeting or our next discussion on this representation? Are there any meetings or anything we're going to be missing
Yeah.
that you're aware of?
I'm not, but I was going to sit down with Ed and see if we can follow up, because I just got this information this afternoon.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, MPO is one of them.
Yeah, the alternate will fill in at the MPO until they come up
Have the
and do another election. And I'll find out what particular communities are represented in this block.
And do you know if the MPO is a public meeting where, even if we're not a,
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it
Yes,
is.
it wouldn't be bad to have one of us there too. So if you
Yeah.
can find out when that meeting is, and so could you send it to Ed and he can send it to us? Thank you.
Francine, did you want to say something? Oh, no.
No.
Okay. I was wondering at one of the next meetings if we could have a conversation about putting together an open space plan. The town is supposed to have that together in order to be eligible for grants. So I know that's been discussed at conservation, but it would be good to have a conversation about that. I know PVPC had helped in the past, or one of the staff people had.
Okay.
And it'd be great if Marla could be a part of that too.
Anything, Matt? Okay. So open time for the public. I'm not going to read this blurb here. I think everybody knows it. Anybody out there like to come up to the microphone and talk? Sure.
Christina Madsen, Rattle Hill. I would like to address the front doors. When they were voted, when $10,000 of PC, what is the
CPC?
CPC? I got it backwards. Was $10,000 was voted at annual town meeting, and it was said that that was just a random figure, hoping to get bids because no one had gotten bids before. I came and I looked at the doors, and perhaps you know I'm a furniture maker. My sister is an architectural conservator. She wrote the specs for the schoolhouse roof. When I looked at them, the proposal was to get new doors made. The doors that are there are perfectly sound. There is no rot. My determination, and it's a fairly experienced eye that I have, is that those really need weatherization, not replacement. Any new doors that you buy will not last as long as those doors. And I would like to recommend, if you would, I would just like you to consider having them weatherized rather than going to the extreme expense of having them replaced. One thing that crossed my mind is that if you're going to do anything, rather than replacing those doors, is to put doors at there's a deep foyer there, build inner doors, if you wanted to go to that expense. But I think a good deal of the draft can be remedied on the current doors by a good, an expert person weatherizing them rather than replacing them. So I'd like to put that forward. I'm willing to try to get my sister to come and have a look at them with me, and my partner Glenn Leonard, who's a builder, and we could come up with a new proposal, if you'd like, of what an alternate to spending money to actually replace them. So that's just an offer.
Do you remember what the warrant was to the town relative to those doors that was approved by the voters?
To replace them. And,
replace them?
yes, it was a $10,000 sum to replace the doors.
Under the historical account for CPC. Would that need to be brought back to the town if it was a weatherization as opposed to a replacement?
I would have to see how it's written.
Okay.
Because you're not just talking weatherization, you're probably gonna prepare them all and restore anything that's needed, so it could be replacing parts on it.
Yes, yeah, and I think then it would be decided by you as a board, which direction you wanted to go in, but I think it could cost significantly less.
Yeah.
And I don't think you're gonna get a better door,
Right.
because they are perfectly sound.
That sounds like a great idea. What do
Sounds
you
like a
folks
really
think?
good
I
idea.
totally agree.
Have we
Thank
done
you.
anything yet, Ed? So that we're not stopping any process at this point, right?
Not really. The other alternative, and it might have actually taken both coming together to replace them, that is in phase one of the DOER Green Community Grants also. The one piece I will say is, you're right, a new door may not last as long as those will. However, new doors would be much more energy efficient than those doors. But it's still somewhat in the historical committee's realm, because actually one of the things I asked Bob about with that is, I goes, okay, from the historical committee's perspective, what are my parameters here? Do I have to put back, wooden doors versus actually looking at fiberglass? So I think they still have some say in this, so.
It's just me, but I think there's gonna be a challenge to that statement.
I will challenge. It may be somewhat more efficient, but I think you could also, by doubling up the door, there are ways that
Well,
you
then
don't have to replace. You don't have to replace historic doors to create, just like you don't have to with the windows. If they're done properly, they can be made a great deal more energy efficient.
Yeah, then you're just into a
Christine-
cost-benefit analysis.
Christine,
Yeah.
before you go, I may have heard it wrong, but were you offering to bring somebody in here at no cost to look at these, or?
Yes.
Well, I mean,
My
you've
sister's
got a
an
lot of expertise
architectural
there.
conservator who ran a company called Building Conservation Associates in Boston
Okay.
for her career. And Glenn Leonard, my partner, has been a builder, finish cabinet maker for his entire career. So we are a seasoned bunch who I think could offer a fairly sound opinion.
Before you sit down, does anybody see a reason not to take her up on her offer?
Oh, I think that would be wonderful. And if, Virginia, if you can check to see what the language on the warrant was, that would be great.
Right, in regard, yeah.
Send the one
Yeah, right,
and put a new
right,
project out,
right.
depending on how it's written.
Well, you just let her know how you need it written. Right.
Right.
But either way, we can get this information, find out, and if we need to redo it, we'll redo it. If not, okay, that's great.
Right, it's just an alternate suggestion, hoping that maybe that sum of money, a portion of that sum can be returned to Virginia's.
I mean, I think it's just great, somebody stepping up out of
Yeah.
town and volunteering, so thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks. Now, Ed, can I ask on the Green Communities Grant, as opposed to just taking the $138,000 and just deciding what would be in the best interest, I know Norris was a area that there was a lot of potential for saving energy. Did you say that you have to actually create a proposal and list what the proposed energy savings are before you can actually use the money and have them be approved?
Correct. The DOER will have to approve that plan.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you were not planning, or you were planning to have the door be part of that?
The doors and the insulation and the attic in this building were to be part of that plan.
Okay.
And of course, and the other flip side of this too is, I don't know what might be eligible with a DOER grant if it was possible of weatherizing the existing doors that would meet their qualifications, and if that was the case, we could
Return the money, not worry about.
we return the
Send it,
CPC monies,
Yeah.
weatherize through the DOER grant, and, you know, utilize the existing doors.
Okay, thank you. Look forward to that. Anybody else? Open time for the public? Hi.
I actually have 3 items. Margaret Larson, David Street. So the first, I am the vice chair of the Capital Improvement Committee, and Randall and I just had a quick sidebar. Do we need to vote on a new vehicle for the Highway Department and Cap Improvement, one way or the other, or recommend that it go to?
Wasn't it recommended already? It just didn't get
We had
funded?
a conversation about it, but neither of us are, if we just said, no, we can't do it, or if there was a recommendation. If there had been a recommendation, then it would have come here and there would have been a vote on it.
I thought it
The
went
select
on the,
board voted, I did not vote in favor of it when we were having such a tight
Okay.
discussion around the budget. I think that we had decided not to put it in front of the voters.
right, we decided not to put it on the warrant, but it came out of capital
Okay,
improvements.
so we're still, I think we're still okay
That
with
was
our
okay.
decision for it, so it can go forward.
Right.
Okay.
That's my understanding.
Well, I might disagree with that. I would probably say that we are now looking at, if you go by the bylaw, and I still intend to come up with a somewhat different capital procedure plan and maybe enter that into the bylaw, but I would say that basically we are looking at October 1st of being a new filing period for both a new 5-year capital plan and what would be the priorities to be requested at the May 2019 annual town meeting.
I guess our concern is, at least my concern is, can we wait till the May meeting for a new vehicle or a used vehicle?
That's what I'm concerned about.
Yeah. So are you saying the approval from the Capital Improvement Committee is not valid if we purchase something this fiscal year? If we find the funding?
That would be my personal opinion.
Okay.
That we're already through last year's, and it's time to start again.
I guess since we have a disagreement, we can just follow up and find out if we can find the funding, but, yeah. If worse comes to worse, we put it back on, but
Well,
that
let me
means
know
we
if we need
wait.
to organize a meeting, and, you know, we can
Yeah.
get that done pretty quickly. And I look forward to working on the 5-year plan. I already talked to Matt about that a little bit.
Okay.
The second item is that I think most of you know I'm on the Hampshire Regional School Committee, but I'm also on the School Council, which is a different group. It's a meeting that we have every 6 weeks or 2 months, and that's with guidance counselors and teachers and parents and administrators. And we're kind of the first line for the budget. We do the school improvement plan, and the capital plan we're the first line for that. So what I'd like to do is quarterly start meeting with the Finance Committee and the Select Board and give a presentation of, you know, where we are in terms of the budget forthcoming. So I'd like to be on the agenda for the 18th, if that's possible.
Okay, sounds good. Anybody object?
Sounds
And
great.
I'll get with the Finance Committee too, and we'll
Would
do
you
that
mind
too.
putting that on it? On the 18th. She wants to be on the agenda from the council or from the school committee?
It's the school council, yeah. I
School
mean, you
council.
can put either one,
Yeah.
but.
And the Finance Committee was planning on joining this 18th meeting as well.
So I can just do it all
You can
together.
do it, yeah.
Work out
All
well.
right. And so this will be kind of a draft. The first time will be a draft, and then we'll talk about what you really want to know, and, you know, we'll kind of refine it over time,
Right.
if that works.
Can I ask a
Yes.
question? Are the Hampshire Regional School Committee members still, do they choose still policy, budget, and curriculum as subcommittees?
No, we have a finance subcommittee. We do not have a curriculum subcommittee at this
Because
point.
we used to all choose a subcommittee to be on. So I was just wondering
Yeah,
if
we
there
have
was...
finance, we have negotiations for, you know, personnel negotiations, but they haven't been doing that. It's actually a question I can raise with them. So-
Okay, just
so good.
curious.
Help me remember that. Right. Yeah, they give presentations, but we're not part of a working committee.
Okay. So we'll put you on the agenda.
Great.
Thank you.
And the last thing, this is an odd, maybe frivolous item, but I noticed that in the agenda, there's references to both Select Board and Select Men.
Really?
And I'm wondering if we can just have it say Select Board.
Absolutely.
Well, no, actually,
it
the
because it's in
official
the
term is
bylaws?
Board of Selectmen.
Board of Selectmen.
Oh,
However, there is a process for changing that.
okay.
And I was informed by, I got a whole list of what towns in the area refer to it officially as Select Board and which ones refer to it officially as Selectmen. And so I know, Ed, you're familiar with what the process is, right?
Actually, it's fairly easy here because you don't have a charter. Doesn't seem to have been any special legislation. So actually, to change it officially, it means going through all the bylaws and bringing back any bylaw that has a reference to Board of Selectmen and editing that to Select Board.
And that has been
It's
done.
already been
That's
it's
we are
already
doing
Well,
that,
no,
right,
there are three
Virginia?
people
We are
here
doing
who
that.
served on the bylaws committee.
There are still, the references that exist still leave this as an official Board of Selectmen.
Right.
Okay.
Well, there are, both Francine and I have been on the
And
bylaw,
Margaret was
and
on
we have been rewriting them
Right.
to say,
Select
Select
Board.
Board.
Yes.
And they've been rewritten, any that we've worked on have
Right.
been rewritten.
And they would have to go to the town meeting and be
Right.
approved.
But that's
The
what
To
whole
make it
thing
official.
has to go
The
there.
whole thing, correct.
Okay, so,
Because we've made a number of small changes and edits and cleaned up language and shortened some. So
so
the
we're,
whole thing is gonna have,
The whole thing is going to have to go.
But
And
they
but the advantage is, with not having the charter or the special legislation, is if you had that at this point in time, it would be the town meeting vote, then it would be a vote of the voters, a ballot vote, and then that would go to the legislature to be adopted.
we have to do that anyway.
okay, so we're going through the process now,
We
which
are
is great.
working on it.
So my question is, can we just unofficially refer to a select board? Or is that, I mean,
Because it's both, maybe it
Yeah.
kind of uses both.
yeah.
so-
Yeah,
So
the
am I-
official term is Board of Selectmen. I have been kind because I know the preference of the board, and where I can, I refer to it as the Select
That
Board.
just makes
So you're
sense.
saying that the bylaws committee should vote to amend the bylaws to say Select Board wherever there's reference to Board of Selectmen, and then the town, the Select Board has to put that to the voters in a warrant, and then it goes to the Attorney General, as all warrants do, for approval, and that's all it takes.
Correct.
So, I'd like to go on record in saying that's actually not a frivolous question.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think this is 2018, and I think it's time.
Thank you,
All
Mark.
right, you're welcome.
Well said, thank you. Is there anybody else? It's tough after that. So if there's nobody else, looks like we're going to be going into executive session and we won't be coming out. So need a roll call to go into executive session after I announce why we're going into it. The first executive session is Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Number 3. Discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declares. This regards Local 98 International Union of Operating Engineers, which is a highway union. The second session will be Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Number 7, to comply with or act under the authority of any general or special law or federal grant in aid requirements for approval of executive session minutes of August 7th, 2018. Have a roll call vote, please.
Groden, aye.
Roland, aye.
Tishman, aye.
Martin, aye. Okay, we're going to take a quick 5-minute break. Let Ryan close up, then we'll be in executive session.